Welcome back to the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. We're brought to you by Icast. For all your fine quality kayak fishing needs, go to yakgadget.com. Pelican cases, tools, and lighting. Go to pelican.com. And the 153 Bait Company. For all your hard, soft plastic bait needs, go to the 153anglers.com. Now let's talk about some awesome products. You're listening to the final cast on Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. I'm Brad.
Hey, Brad.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Sounds like you're doing good, too.
I'm all right. You know, it was a nice day today. Was at work.
Just woke up again, didn't you?
I did.
Every week.
Every Tuesday, dude. It's the day that I don't have the kids. I had them 3 days in a row, and it was actually a pretty chill weekend and stuff. So, yeah, every Tuesday, man, it's like it doesn't fail. I get home from work because I stay a little later at work, usually on Tuesdays also. So, and I get up pretty early. Like I'm up at like 5:30 in the morning because I got to try to get the kids to school at 6:30, and so we got there I made them breakfast this morning, so we were a little later than normal. But yeah, man, I get home, make dinner. That's what I did. Ate my dinner, sat down, turned on Netflix. No, actually, I turned on YouTube. Was watching a little YouTube podcast stuff, and I usually fall asleep. I actually set an alarm at 7:45 p.m. to make sure that I don't sleep through it. I usually don't always kind of fall asleep. I'll start to doze off, but I usually wake up.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, well, we got a cool episode planned today. We got the co-owners of Tightline Anchor. I saw these guys on Instagram. Somebody posted about them. I can't remember who, but I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool product. I mean, it's heavy duty and looks awesome. So we're bringing on co-owners Greg Linton and Thomas Langton. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us, Brad and Josh. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem, man. Our pleasure.
Heck yeah.
This
Go
is
ahead.
This will be interesting for us. This is our first podcast opportunity, so that we're diving into some new waters here.
Heck yeah. And our podcast is based around kayak fishing, so
awesome.
Hand in hand. Yeah, you guys want to do a little introductions on your guys' self and how the company started and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas, you want to take the lead there?
Yeah, it actually started in when I was living in Louisiana, and it was just a neighbor's brother had a Midnight Express center console boat, and he and his son, big spear fishermen in the Gulf of Mexico, they'd went out and got scared. The boat had come off its mooring while they were subsea. So anyway, the conundrum was there's no anchor could hold this boat, and it's very substantial. It's like 37 feet, 400s on the back. And we went over to, his name is also Tom, and went over to his house, and he said, do you think you can build an anchor to hold that boat? And I said, sure. And it started there, and he said, when do you think you could have that anchor built? And I said, oh, next weekend. And then segued into a week of trying to figure out how much Midnight Express really weighed when it had the full jam water and all that stuff on, the fuel on it. And anyway, went back next week, ran out 15 miles, went to the same GPS pinpoint, locked it down, put the alarm on, dropped the anchor, and we didn't move. And Tom jumped in the water and wanted to go down and see if we were actually anchored, and we were. And he came up and said, how much is that anchor worth? I said, it's not for sale. And it was just it went from there to obviously that's not the ideal situation, because it was a grapnel anchor, but like 5 spaded, but obviously very, very big, and Greg has it in his office, and not collapsible. But the design was there and the idea was there, And I think the rudimentary technology worked at that point. And then Tom also said, if you want to really make that anchor, it's got to be stowable, because they run a fortress anchor on the bow of all those boats. It just comes stock with that, which didn't work. And he said, but that's a big anchor. It works, but it has to be stowable. You have to be able to collapse it. And that's when I called Greg and I said, do you even think an anchor this size we could be collapsible? And the rest is kind of history. Greg's like, yeah, sure. And I think a week later, he'd sent me a picture, or a series of pictures, of one arm of the anchor attached to the tower, and said, I think I've kind of figured it out, and it worked. And then it just went from there. And we met, I went back to Canada, met some whitewater kayakers that expedition pleasure kayaked on the weekend. And they said, if you could make that really small and compact, that same design, you'd have something there, because there is no dedicated anchor for kayaks that works, that's compact and high performance. And these guys were sponsored by Red Bull, and they're into high performance equipment. And Greg and I kind of just, I don't even know how we talked about it, but it was kind of like, we'll just figure it out. And Greg was instrumental in taking the ideas. I think I made one out of sheet metal and sent it to him, or showed it to him. And of course, Greg's like, wow, we can make it a lot better than that. And it was just like magic. We just started right there.
That's cool.
And I think like a bunch of math, and I don't know how many variations later, Greg can attest to that. And I think we're still in that kind of not 100% satisfied, but always looking to improve our product, and it just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, I didn't realize you guys actually made boat anchors as well. Like the anchor I saw was the actual kayak anchor, so that's interesting.
Well, it's just a segue backwards, because we realized quickly when you want to manufacture a product, and we were pretty novice at that point, that to get into the marine market was probably with just a great idea and a lot of energy and a lot of talent, it was probably not the market you want to get into right away. And the smaller product was more accessible as junior business people trying to get into the manufacturing segment. I think that we realized right away we wouldn't be in as over our head if we started with a smaller version of that product and catered to a market that didn't have a dedicated product that worked, that we might be able to make some inroads there really quickly and grow from there. Grow from the bottom up, rather than trying to get in somewhere closer to the top and go backwards and work down, right? If we grow upward, that we have a natural progression of our product, and it's believable because we made it work at a small scale, and you grow over the years, and you get into different class of vessel and weights, and I think it's more believable because your technology is proven, and your track record, and your sales, and the adoption of your product. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so you're anchored in a sense from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you also have a customer base that everybody that owns a boat, like in the marine segment, everybody that owns a boat owns other marine craft. They own personal watercraft, kayaks, canoes, anything. The people that are into the water are in it, and they own this stuff. So they can say, yeah, I bought that anchor like 10 years ago for my personal watercraft or my kayak, and they're building an anchor now for a, like a 40+ foot center console boat.
Jeez. That's cool.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Greg, you want to give a little bit of background on you, how you got started with all this and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Tom kind of sold himself short there. He went right into the anchor business, but Tom's got an extensive background in fabricating, building custom motorcycles for big organizations, and he's got a lot of accolades in the manufacturing world for his custom work. And that's sort of how Tom and I ended up becoming buddies long before this whole anchor business took off. So we kind of bonded around motorcycles when I was living in Petawawa, and built this friendship over several years. And when Tom left Canada, moved down south there, and I stayed up here, we stayed in contact, and that's really sort of how we came together to basically work on this anchor project, because we both have a passion as gearheads working on stuff, building stuff, fabricating. So neither one of us come from a business background per se, more from a, take a beer box, cut a shape of something out, take it to the bench, hammer the crap out of it, weld it, drill some holes in it and see if it works. And so we kind of, we think the same way. We're very technically minded, and I personally have a background in the machining and fabricating world as well. I joined the military, and I was in the Army for 6 years, and then transferred over to the Air Force as an aircraft structures technician. So I was able to further kind of refine some of my manufacturing skills and trade work. And if you look at the current anchor that we have out there with the folded metal, the solid rivets, it very much resembles aircraft structure, because it's built in a way that just it's built strong. It's built to be able to withstand strains in multiple different from multiple different directions, and it's not meant to ever come apart. So basically, when Tom built that first big anchor, which is over here to my right, that's the big blue one there on the floor that anchored the Midnight Express, he sent that anchor up to me, and we did some work in the machine shop and played around with it and got it to collapse. And then, as Tom said, we started out with a much larger anchor. We didn't have any real concept of the kayak fishing market, how big it was, whether it was growing, whether it was something that, was a business opportunity or not. Because when we got into building these anchors, it wasn't a business venture. It was a venture of just two guys trying to work on building a cool product for, our own needs, or, the needs of our family and our friends. And then it kind of escalated from talking to those expedition kayakers and saying, hey, you know what, you guys have a product here that if scaled properly, it could be of value. And so that's when we looked at the kayak fishing market. We saw that in the United States, it was expanding quite a bit. It was a growing sport. Growing up fishing myself, and Tom as well, he's big into fishing. We're like, hey, this is something that we should look at. So before Tightline Anchor, neither one of us were into kayak fishing per se. We were into fishing. We were into boats. Like I had a couple boats before the whole kayak fishing thing, but the bringing our product into this marketplace has actually brought us into the sport as well, which is kind of ironic, but it's been great. So in 2018, we went down to Icast. So that was kind of that was a TSN turning point, where it's, what are we going to do? Like, are we going to invest in building these kayak anchors, or are we going to, look at the marine environment and build bigger anchors, or are we just going to shelf this and look at it at another time? And so Thomas did some research and found that the Icast show is probably, a good place for us to take our product, show it to industry, meet the people that are, building the hulls, that are paddling, that are, very much involved in kayak fishing, and get their feedback and see if we're on the right track, see if it's something worth investing our time and our money and resources into. And going down there was a huge eye opener. We got to meet a lot of industry leaders. We got a lot of great feedback. We went back to the drawing board. We made design revisions. We went through 7 different design changes. Some of them went into low-level production runs. We put them out there to people. We got customer feedback. If our customer didn't like it, we bought the anchor back, or we'd exchange it for a new one. And that's really how we evolved our, the anchor to what it is today. And we haven't really looked back. We've had continuous growth. We've made design changes, again, and kind of every time we make another production run, we are small enough that we're able to look at customer feedback and what they need, what they want, and make those changes. Like, I'm a consumer, Tom's a consumer. We're all consumers. We're all tired of buying shit that, it just kind of gets thrown down your throat. So we pride ourselves in being able to be nimble and responsive to our customer demands, and we try to do the best we can to be responsive, to give them what they paid for. And that's kind of where we're at with the K5 now. That's the only anchor that we sell. We have several other products that we've designed that we'd love to put into production, but we're really just focused right now on the bread and butter of the K5 anchor. That's 4 kayaks, 4 stand-up paddle boards, 4 Sea-Doos, and be able to become profitable enough that we can reinvest in ourselves and grow our business without giving up, a huge portion of equity to an investor that then wants to take us, down a tangent that we just don't want to be a part of. We want to maintain control of our business and grow organically in a way that we can satisfy our customers.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a lot of words.
And I agree.
That's a lot. When you ask for something where you're going to get the full Monty there, I think, yeah.
But I like what you said, because there's a lot of times that your company might see a little bit of success and are quick to sell out to an investor and then lose control and then kind of be like, and then sometimes they'll take those products, man, and they'll push them overseas or whatever, and then you start using suboptimal metals or whatever, and then you start getting complaints like, oh, this thing's breaking or whatever, and you guys have pride in your product and you stand by for what it represents, which is basically an attestment to like what you guys do anyways, what you guys are into, what is building like high quality, you're into the motorcycle game. You guys like to build, you like to tinker, and you like to make stuff that's solid, it's going to work, and you have pride in that. And a lot of times you just see that goes right out the window as soon as you start shooting as high as possible with, investors, and that's the sort of thing. All you have to do is watch an episode of Shark Tank. And sometimes they'll that show's not all it's cracked out to be, though. Like, they'll go back and talk to them later, and there was like, it was great at first, and then we realized maybe we shouldn't have done what we did, because I think if we would have waited, instead of being impatient, and wanting to jump all over this great idea and push it to the max as quickly as possible, and they end up not having control. And a lot of times something where they do push that stuff overseas or whatever, and it comes back, it's like we lost the product, we lost the vision that we had, and we lost the quality that we had, and because we mass produced it. I mean, not to say you guys wouldn't want to mass produce your product, that'd be wonderful, but you're also, I've met a lot of guys like you that are in that fabrication world, and you guys take that shit serious, and there's like, we don't want to build something that is going to be this trend where it keeps coming back, like it's breaking an arm off every time the wind blows over 20 miles an hour or something,
Yeah.
Well, I think, Josh, if I could just back that up, it's like 10 years from now, if I'm up at Lake Eufaula or down at the Gulf, and somebody sees me or recognizes me, or I'm driving my company truck, and they see it, and they say, "Hey, I own one of those," and I'm like, "Let me see it." You're at the boat launch, like, let me see it, and ask them, when did you buy it? I bought it back in like 2018, and I take it in my hand and action that anchor, and it put a smile on my face if it still works the way that I intended it to. And Greg, obviously together we intended it to work, and hand it back to them and say, "I'll get you a free hat out of the truck," and that to me is the greatest return that you can ever have on your time investment and belief in your product. When somebody said, "Yeah, I lost this anchor twice and I got it back. I dove for it once, and I gaffed it another time, and I wouldn't go fishing, or I wouldn't go on the water without it. And that's all you need to hear. And you know that all the time you put in early on was well worth it.
Very
I
cool.
like reviewing over the website and the product itself. I do dig the fact that you guys have made it so lightweight. You know, it's sitting at 3.5. You know, there's one thing that I started to learn, because I had the an old grapple style as well, but it was like one that you can buy at like Cabela's or whatever, you know, or like the local big box like type stores,
galvanized ones or something.
Yeah, and it worked, but the thing that I couldn't stand was that thing would get stuck on everything. So I kind of saw where, and you guys have this available for your anchor, which I love, because that was my biggest gripe with the grapple style was, how do I get this thing unstuck? Especially because Brad and I are into fishing rivers, and we will deploy anchors sometimes, and sometimes they get jammed up under the rocks if you're fishing a current seam or whatever. So I did it's the same concept that you guys have in the breakaway line, that management system that you're selling separate from the anchors, and it was literally the same thing. I just hooked it to the bottom and ran a zip, like a really lightweight kind of zip tie that I knew if I had to pull it would pop. And but I couldn't stand that thing because of the grapple style. Now, what I do like about your guys is it's sharp. Like, that thing is beautiful. That anchor looks fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Like, it is a really, really well designed, thought out anchor. It looks good. Like, it looks solid. And you know, so what was when you guys originally were thinking about doing an anchor, was a grapple style the first thing that you guys were thinking of?
Tom, did you want to take that?
Well, yeah, I think so. The grapnel style anchor historically has been the anchor of choice. The problem was when they were hammer forged together, you know, back when Christ was a cowboy and Moses was wearing shorts, they don't stow well. There's nothing you can do with the grapnel anchor when it's fixed arm, right?
Mm-hmm.
So hence you have the Navy anchor, which is a grapnel anchor with only 2 arms. And the only reason it's still popular to this day is it fits in an anchor pocket on a hull. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily work well. It's only got 2 arms of the multiple arms it could have, right? And it goes on weight and by chance bite, right? Where you want the plow effect available on a 360-degree rotation. And you want the anchor, if it becomes dislodged, to be able to reset itself and walk, right? And that's a huge thing to ask of any anchor. You know what I mean? Like the anchors become dislodged because they can't reset. The grapnel anchor can reset itself because it has, you know, more than one chance it's going to reset itself. If you like a plow anchor, typically like a Fortress only has one chance to plow in and bite. If it gets, you know, dislodged, that's why people that sleep on sailboats don't really sleep on sailboats. They just lay there and worry, right? So
yeah,
you know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it, but that's why they lay there and worry, because you can be on your mooring and go to bed, and you're gonna, in the morning, you won't be where you went to bed, right? Like, you'll be off your mooring. So anyway, it just has, and by the way, the grapnel anchor, the way we designed it, you can use it as a spade anchor with 1 arm out, 2 opposing arms, 3, or all 4. And if you want to drag and you want to just drag a weedy bottom, just put 1 arm out, and you know, it offers you some variety. You know what I mean, in your ability to hold yourself there. You know, and the submarine environment and the surface environment are 2 different things, right? You know, we get environmental conditions on the surface and a submarine environment that's constantly changing, you know, by the square foot. You know, you don't really know what's down there. You think you know, or if you can see it, that's great. But, you have to have an anchor that adapts to all conditions, and you have to take that into consideration when you're buying an anchor and where you fish or where you want to fish, or what you intend to use it for. You know what I mean? Like, an anchor shouldn't be a speed break. It should be something that'll hold you there.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second. The function of this this anchor. So you mentioned you could have 1, 2, 3, or all 4 deployed. How does that work?
Yeah, so
maybe Greg can show you. Greg, if you have a sample there, you can probably just show them what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'll try to articulate it in case there's people that are listening instead of watching. But the way that we've designed this is with solid rivets here that basically stop the anchor arm from opening or closing on its own. So you have to manually open it or close it. And all of our anchors come with a lifetime warranty. So if you ever have an issue where one of these, becomes loose or something like that, send it back to us and we'll fix it, no problem. So you're able to, open 2 or 1, whatever you want to do. The easiest way to open these anchors, only because we've done it about 100,000 times, is you point it away from yourself and you leverage one arm against the other. And then for closing it, the easiest way is to use your flat part of your palms. You don't pinch any fingers, and close it. Another feature that's different than our competition anchor is this brake spade here. So this creates a whole lot of surface area that's able to bite on whatever the submarine surface area is, versus the traditional grapnel anchor that's available is more of like a spoon shape. Yeah. So this is more versatile in a lot of different environments versus the other one. But something to consider, regardless of what anchor you're using, whether it's one of ours or any other one, is that anchoring is very subjective. So as Thomas mentioned, the surface conditions and the submarine conditions, could be working together or against each other. You don't really know. But the key to anchoring, really, with any anchor, is that you have enough rode ratio out. And by that, I mean how much rope you have out for every foot of water depth that you're in. And so, a common misconception is that you can take, an anchor like this or whatever and be in 10 feet of water and use 15 feet of rope. Well, that just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. The anchor, whatever type it is, it has to be able to lay down on the bottom of the water and be able to dig or work its way into that submarine surface. So you always have to have enough rode ratio. We recommend a minimum of 5-to-1. So if you're in 10 feet of water, in bad conditions, you want to have 50 feet of line out. That seems like a lot of line, but if you walk down your driveway and you look back at your garage, you're probably already like 30 feet away from your garage door, right? So 50 feet in your mind sounds like a lot, but it's really not. Obviously, if you're in calmer conditions, you can get away with less rode ratio, but you want to have that length of line out for a couple of reasons. One, it lets your anchor lay down. 2, it acts as a shock absorber between your anchor and your boat. So if you're anchored off of, like a, some type of tie off on your kayak, a handle or whatever it is, you want the abuse of the waves or the abuse of the wind or the current or whatever to be absorbed by your anchor line, by your rope, not by your boat, not by your hull, and not by your anchor. Not that you're not going to damage this anchor. You can tow a truck around with this. I don't recommend it. And legal disclaimer, don't tow your truck around this, but you could. This is plenty strong enough to do that. But if this is anchored into soft, sandy soil and you don't have a shock absorber between your boat and this, you run the risk of damaging your boat or shocking this out of its location that's holding your boat. So it's always better to use more rope than you think you need, regardless of what anchor you use. So that's kind of like the anchor tip of the day. Make sure you have enough rode ratio.
It's funny you mentioned that because me and Josh has brought that up actually, I think Josh brought it up before, and we've talked about that. And I always see people complaining like, oh, this anchor's not holding me. Well, it's because you're not using it correctly. You don't have
Yeah.
that length of line out that you need to hold you in place.
Oh yeah, they drop it, and as soon as it hits ground, they'll lock whatever
Yeah.
deployment equipment they're using, and then they're like, "Oh," I'm like, "Dude, a 50-pound weight's probably not going to hold you in place like that because it's barely touching the bottom, and that wind blows. You're just dragging it around." I mean, I learned that early because I used to have that mushroom style one too, and I had that crappy grapnel one, right? And I didn't like that one whatsoever. So I went and bought, I was pissed off. I was like, dude, I'm getting tired of getting blown around because I had the Coos HD, which is like the worst lake kayak you could possibly be in. It's like a freaking windsock. And I ended up buying like an 8 or 9 pound mushroom style thing. And the thing was so dumb, so heavy.
Yeah.
Like when I would like throw it over, I would laugh because the weight loss that happened on the top of my kayak would make the boat shift. Like, so I'd toss it in, I'd have to counterbalance myself rocking around. And, then I was like, man, I got rid of that thing. So I kind of rarely use an anchor at this point. But there's a lot of places that I'd love to have one. And I like this style anchor. I also like mushroom style and ball styles too. I think what's cool about that is that you can actually go out and get a couple anchors and be like, all right, this one will serve me best in this water condition. And then the Tightlines one will be wonderful over here because I am finding that, I'm getting dragged around and don't matter how much weight's hitting the ground, and I need something to bite into the sand or whatever. Like I need to kind of search like for something to grab onto. So it's like I said, man, I remember when you guys first came out with these and I was like, dude, that's sharp. Like it looks so good when I can't remember who one of the first kayak anglers I had seen had gotten it, but I was just like, that thing's beautiful. Like it's a work of art. Like it looks great. I like the way you guys made it retractable like that. But instead of just being like, wow, let's just like throw this shit together and make an anchor, you guys kind of made it your own. You did something kind of unique, and you took that approach like, hey, let's make this look good too. Because I mean, the kayak fishing market is like, it's full of a lot of cool products like that. That's one thing that I'm real proud of to be in this, is that people like you who are into fabrication and stuff end up having this like kind of task of what can we do that we can make it look good, be durable, and lightweight, and like you said, like how can we have this stowable? Like, kayak fishing, you ain't got squat for room on top of these things. And I think you guys nailed all 3 points with your anchor.
I appreciate that, Josh. Thank you. That's all. It's good to get that feedback, and we've heard that from a bunch of different customers that we've dealt with and going to Icast, and it was a refinement. We came out with the best thing that we could at the time, but it was really a refinement over the last couple of years to get to the stage we're at. It always looked cool, by the way, but the performance and stuff, like, yeah. Tom and I are all about the LCF, the look cool factor. You got to have look cool.
You guys are into motorcycles, so if you're into custom bike building, dude, if the shit don't look cool, man, you're like, scrap it.
Yeah. Well, that's something we've talked about before on the show too, Josh.
Yeah, back when I was building a motorcycle, I looked at a lot of rims, like from American Racing, and who Roland Sands' father owned, and go to Los Angeles and look at rims. And then I met just by chance at a hot rod show in Los Angeles. I met Chip Foose, and he said, you have a very, very, very nice bike. I really, really like the design. I can appreciate it. He said, what was the hardest part about building the bike? And I said, the rims. And he's a rim guy. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, I want to build my own rims. And he said, if you'd stop by the shop, just call me and I'll design your first set of rims for you, and I'll tell you a little bit of what I know about the rim business. And that was it. You have to build the best. You have to start, and you have to anything. And at that point, you've been bitten by the bug, and nothing less than perfect will do. And I think you have to have that mindset, no matter what it is you're building or designing. If you like, Greg and I think a lot alike. We can finish each other's sentences. So I think when we look at a problem, we only see solutions, and very, very quickly we can get to the end. And I think that's why it's a success. You know what I mean? You know, on a very small scale, I think the design will live forever.
Yeah, Josh, you mentioned everything looking good, and we've talked about that with kayak anglers before. Kayak anglers just like to look good, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Sometimes, I guess when you're, I mean, it's like that in anything. When you have a passion, you kind of start getting into something, and you get into it more, and then you get into it more, and it goes from like just the kind of hobby of doing it. Then you're like, I'm starting to buy the more expensive stuff. Brad, you know what I'm talking about, because I helped contribute to your delinquency into the kayak game a little bit, when I used to laugh at you for wearing your painter's pants and stuff like out fishing. I'm like, dude, get you some fishing gear, man. It's more comfortable. It's better when it's hot outside. Here, check. I gave you a hook shirt, and I was like, but then you kind of realize, like, okay, yeah, maybe sometimes the stuff that's out there seems overpriced, right? Mm-hmm. But once you start utilizing it, and you start using it, and you find that it has a durability factor to it, it has a good look to it, and multiple other things, then you start to realize, yeah, this is worth the money. You know what I mean? Like, I could have bought a Tightline Anchor, and the amount of time and energy and frustration I put into other anchors, and been like, bought this product, been one and done, and been all right. Instead of cursing in the middle of Cowan Lake because I can't keep my freaking position longer than 5 seconds. It's like time's money, and frustration's money, in my opinion. Like, you don't want to sit there and waste that time. That time becomes valuable. Like, especially for me, I'm not like a full-time angler by any means. I'm a weekend warrior. So that time that I get out there is precious. It's limited. And the last thing I want to do is screw around with a faulty product, and I'm willing to go spend I have a $300 kayak paddle, and people thought that was crazy. And then now they bought one. They're like, we get it. We totally get it,
Yep.
Well, I think, Josh, everybody goes through that. You start out at the entry level, and when you meet other people and you see what you're using, you understand that after a while that you get what you pay for. In certain instances, certain things are very key. A paddle, PFD, an anchor, and select other small safety equipment. They're key, and you should buy the best. You only have one chance to have the best. Certain key items. I mean, you can go to Walmart and get a $15 fishing rod. As long as you have the basics that are the best, I think you can keep up to anybody. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah,
I agree. Speaking of the cool factor here, this is a picture that caught my eye. I got it pulled up. Anybody who's watching or listening on podcast, check it out on YouTube. They're using the Tightline Anchor with the Anchor Wizard, and that thing looks sweet.
Yeah, I remember that. When I first saw it, I'm like, you look like you could harpoon a whale with that thing, man.
Yeah. Well, you definitely feel like Batman. You definitely feel like Batman when you got it in your hands. You can't help it.
How's the function with the Anchor Wizard? Does it work pretty well?
Yeah, it works very well with the Anchor Wizard. It depends on the hull of the boat that you got. With boats, like, there's so many different brands of boats out there now. It's impossible to keep track of them all. But the hulls that have, a lot of compound curves and that on the back, it can be a challenge for mounting the Anchor Wizard. So there's a lot of people that have come up with, solutions using different types of like cutting boards and stuff to make basically like an extension, right? To be able to get it off the hull or to square it with the hull. I have seen some people running the Anchor Wizard off the side of their boat. I wouldn't recommend that unless you've got a way of, using an anchor trolley or something to get the anchor down to either end of your boat, because anchoring off the side is, a huge safety concern. That's something that Thomas and I, like, outside of the kayak specific market, like the whole design, or a big part of our business mantra is safety.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with an anchor, that's an integral piece of safety gear, whether you're on a kayak or whether you're on a PWC, any of those different types of things. And we try to stress as much as we can that, if you use our product or use anybody else's, use it in some kind of safe manner. So we don't recommend mounting the Anchor Wizard off the side of your boat like that. But certain hulls, they lend themselves very well to mounting the Anchor Wizard right off the top. And then, of course, there's a lot of new anglers that, they spend a ton of their hard-earned money on a brand new hull, and they can't bring themselves to drill holes in it. So, it's just something to consider. But I think a lot of people, after they pop the first hole, the first hole in their hull, they get on with things, and then, there's no limit to it. But they work very well together. We made sure the first anchor that we put to market when we went to Icast in 2018 was the K4X. So that was the smaller version of this anchor. That anchor only weighed 14 ounces, and it fit perfectly in the Anchor Wizard only by chance. We didn't know, we were not aware of the Anchor Wizard when we went into the market. We met them just through mutual contact, and they said, hey, your product would work great with that product. And we said, okay, let's check it out. And sure enough, it did. And we started, packaging them together, like combining them on our website. And that worked great. But when it came time to developing this big one, we made sure as hell that it would actually fit in that chute as well, so that, our customers that are already running an Anchor Wizard, they've got no worries about using the K5 with it.
Yeah, the safety aspect. So I kind of learned by experience that throwing your anchor over the side is not a good idea, especially in the river. And I did that. I had an old whatever you call it, grapple.
Grapnel.
Is that what you call it? Yeah, grapnel. And I threw it over the side. It got lodged in between two big chunks of concrete, and my boat goes sideways and starts tipping. Water just starts rushing in. I'm like, oh crap! Yeah. I had to pull out the knife and cut it, because I couldn't try to undo it. But
and you're not the only one. There's there's a lot of people, and sadly, there's people that drown every year. Thinking they're doing the right thing, or taking their kids out on the kayak, and everything's going great until it's not. And we always stress with PFDs too. We have a small group of anglers that we brought on as brand ambassadors and pro staff, and we're trying to grow that team. But that's part of being on the Tightline Anchor team, is that you're wearing your gear, you're doing, as you say, like, you're doing the right thing, but you're also taking care of other people on the water to make sure that they're not going to be the ones that aren't going home tonight. So that's really important to us.
Love it.
That's cool, man.
Love it, because it's just reoccurring nightmare story that we hear every year as kayak anglers about people who don't wear PFDs and end up drowning, and it's sad because a lot of times it's so easily preventable. I get it. There's going to be a lot of one-offs. I've heard stories of experienced paddlers, they get, tangled up in cord or whatever and that thing, but it's so rare to hear that happen. It's always stories of we got out when it was early spring though, or whatever. Somebody has a health condition they're not aware of, and they end up having a heart attack falling out of a kayak or a boat, and and they end up drowning because they just sink. And it's sad because but I love that you guys are pushing that. We tried to do that here on Paddle and Fin as well. Our buddy Dan Perry, at the end of every one of his episodes, used to always say, wear your PFDs, like, no matter what. And I have a lot of friends that don't. I get on them. I'm like, you guys really should wear that. Oh, well, I know how to swim. I do too. Known how to swim since I was in 3rd grade. I was good at it at one point, but I'm also 42 and I eat cheeseburgers and, so shit happens. Sometimes God just chooses that it's my time. And I am out fishing and enjoying myself. I don't want to drown, but whatever. And that's why I wear a PFD. So cheeseburgers can continue. So, but it's just, and that's the thing though, is that you pointed out about having the pro staffers. I think that's an important kind of aspect of saying, hey, you guys use our products. We support you, but we also want you to do it the right way and spread a positive image. You don't want to have your product or your company attached to somebody's hypocritical. But the game is in kayaking, and we're all aware of this, is that cords do make this more dangerous. So whether it's an anchor line or it's simple cordage for your rod leashes. So that's the other thing, I kind of wanted to mention. It could be fishing line. There's people who use 100-pound, braid or whatever out fishing for 2-pound catfish for whatever stupid reason, and it's that shit's all in the rivers around here. And it's like, you're like, it doesn't take much, man. I watched, Brad, me and Ryan went out and somebody had left some high strength mono all over the bank. And he went to turn around and walk towards me and he caught his foot in it, dude. And he about ate it right there on the bank line, and it's that's the kind of stuff you're dealing with in the water. So guys, please wear your PFDs, carry a good diving knife, something like that. That's, blunt on one end so you're not poking holes if you have a inflatable or whatever. But, just watch out for your safety. So,
yep. Yeah. So, do you guys want to hit anything else on the construction of it? Let's talk about that a little bit. What is it made out of?
Yeah, so it's made out of 316 stainless steel. Everything. The rivets, we have the rivets made out of 316. The cable that runs through it, that's aircraft grade cable. That's 316. The clinches and these swivels as well. Now, the reason why we put the swivel on there is so that if you're running, say, 50 feet, 100 feet of anchor line out, and you're bringing it in, just as Josh mentioned about, you add line or rope to anything, it becomes more hazardous. Mm-hmm. If you're hand bringing in, say, 50 feet of rope, and this thing's bouncing off the rocks on the way back in and spinning, you get a big old mess of, a big rat's nest of anchor line. So that's why we wanted to make sure that we put a swivel on ours right out of the gate, so that you eliminate that big rat's nest. And it wasn't necessarily designed as a safety feature. It's more designed as a convenience feature. But when you think about having all that rope on board, if you're not using an anchor wizard or say a Yak Attack sidewinder reel or something like that to manage your line, it can become a safety hazard for sure. Each arm is made out of 2 pieces of flat stainless steel. So it's 3/16, 1/8 material that's cut out of a sheet, and then it's forged, so it's put into a brake, and it's pressed and formed into this shape, and then it's solid riveted together, so nothing can come apart. Everything's completely tamper proof. You can't take anything apart unless you're going to use a cutoff wheel or a hacksaw. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're confident in providing a lifetime warranty. So if you buy this thing and you got any issues, we'll fix it or we'll replace it. We're not worried about it. It's as solid as a hammer, really. That's basically the construction of it. We have different powder coat finishes. So right now we have 3 different colors. We've got this hunter orange color, we've got zombie green, and we've got yellow, and we have just a bare finish as well. The finish actually holds up very well. We're very happy with this powder coat system that we're using. We did go down the road of using Cerakote for a while, which was really nice coating, very durable as well. But the cost and trying to get a perfect product every time, we were having some issues with quality. So we've done some custom anchor runs with Nevada Cerakote. So every year we kind of do a couple different anchors that we put out for different causes that we believe in supporting. So 2 years ago we did some veteran anchors. We made an anchor that was custom Cerakoted by Nevada Cerakote for a Canadian veteran hospital, and we auctioned that one off, and then we put all that money back into the veterans hospital there. And then we did another one for US veterans that was also auctioned off or raffled off. And this year we did a custom run of orange and black anchors, and we donated them to a variety of kayak fishing tournaments for different causes. So I think we did 6 so far. We still have 1 left to put out there. So we do have the ability to have some custom artwork done on them for different causes that Tom and I believe in supporting and shining light on. But right now we're sticking with these, 4 basic colors that we're using. If I had it my way, I'd be like Henry Ford and say you could have it in any color you want as long as it's black. But the customers, they like the color options. So we're actually looking for some feedback on colors for our next production run of, maybe pulling another color out. So if anybody's got some ideas that they're really passionate about, we'd like to hear about it.
Yeah, I saw the custom colors you guys posted on Instagram. There was like a purple one, and that was pretty cool looking. And they the colors kind of resemble the catch boards a little bit.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, sometimes I think in kayak fishing and the business kayaks, the color thing gets lost. It gets a little overdone. I get it. Like, you want to match your boat, but at the same time, what's hilarious is that these companies start shifting their colors around.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jackson was notorious because, like, I love Jackson kayaks. One of the reasons that always kind of drew me is you could order a custom color from them,
mm-hmm.
And then they stopped doing that. And then they had this big wide color scheme, and then they simplified it because the other companies were as well, and it was more cost effective for them. Because the bad thing about that is if you want to try to do a blend on a kayak, they were having to make, an ungodly amount of boats to get the blend to be right, and it wasn't worth what the upcharge was. So it's like, at this point, I don't know if you guys can find, maybe keep your most popular colors, because I would say, maybe throwing something in once in a while like you're already doing is a good idea. But I don't know, like, if it would even serve you well, just because the companies like to switch it up, and they're like, well, here's this year's 3 or 4 lineup, and then that person's like, well, now I've got this anchor that doesn't match, so it's like, I mean, personally, if I was good, I would buy the one that's like just the straight metal finish. I think that looks cool, or black. Yeah, like I would be.
I was just gonna say that. So Josh is just pining toward just getting a straight stainless steel one. I got that, Josh.
Yeah,
I'm good.
But the other thing too, though, with these colors that we have, they're very bright, and you can see them from the surface. So that's kind of a bit of a differentiator compared to a lot of other anchors where, if it's important for you to see where it is, or if you're on the shore, like thinking about like low light when you're going to the bow launch at 5 a.m. and you're trying to get your gear, whether it's just a bare finish, because it's got sheen to it, it reflects light so you can see it compared to like, a lot of the cast anchors and that. But then the color piece, it really stands out as well. So just thinking about stuff that's laying around on shore and you're walking around trying to get in or out in the dark or looking for it in the water, it's helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Well, is there anything else you guys wanted to add on these? I mean, we've hit a bunch of it.
I don't think so. We appreciate you guys having us on, and it's been a good experience. It's been a good first podcast.
For sure.
Heck yeah. Yeah, you guys want to let the listeners know where they can find you guys and
Yeah, all your
that
social
kind of
media
stuff?
handles.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find us at www.tightlineanchor.com. So it's TIGHTLINE anchor.com. On Instagram, we're tightline_anchor. We've also got our Facebook page, which you can find at Tightline Anchor. And we have a Tightline Anchor owners group. So if there's any of you guys that are out there, guys or girls that are out there that own our product, and you don't know about it, check out the Tightline Anchor owner group. It's something that one of our pro staff there, he thought it's something that we should do. So we've done that. We haven't been super active on it yet, but we definitely have some initiatives that we want to do to give back to our customers in the new year. So we're trying to put together some different contests and giveaways, things like that for the future. So if you own one of our anchors, or even if you don't own one, but you're interested in own one, check it out. You can join the group. It goes through an admin or whatever, and they'll accept you, and you can learn about the product. And if you see any of our ambassadors on the water, or pro staff on the water, or other anchor owners, ask them if you can borrow it, for an afternoon and try it out. That's what we do with our ambassadors and our pro staff. We encourage them to lend out the product so people get to try it before you buy it. I don't want to say our product's expensive or anything, but it's an investment in being able to hold your position, save your time on the water, stay where the fish are, anchor if you've got a medical emergency. It provides all those different benefits. But we understand that it can be a bit to, shell out the funds without actually getting to put your hands on it and try it. So by all means, reach out to people that are in your area and ask them if they like it. Ask them, if you can borrow it, and by all means, send us an email through our website. There's just 3 of us. We hired our first employee this year, so that's been awesome. We're slowly growing. But when you contact us, you're talking to the owners of the company. So we have the ability to help you guys out. We can get you what you need. If you got a problem, we can make it right, and that's really what we want to do.
Heck yeah. Yeah, guys, they got a whole package here with the Anchor and the Anchor Wizard on their website, so that's pretty cool. Check it out.
Thomas, did you have anything else you'd like to add, sir?
I think he froze.
He's back.
Hey, how do we get some paddle and fin stickers to send out with our anchors?
I will send you some. I just got a bunch of them. So you guys send me your email.
That'd be awesome.
Or address, not email.
Yeah, because we ship them every day, and it'd be great to throw it in the box, and people will see what that's all about too.
Appreciate it, man. Heck yeah. Well, guys, I enjoyed having an interview. I love talking tech stuff and the whole manufacturing stuff. It's fun for me to do. It's why I like to do this show. So anytime we get to talk to anybody who takes pride in what they're doing, and I wish you guys the best of luck moving forward, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot, Josh. Appreciate that.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. We will wrap it up, guys. We'll see you guys next week, and have a good one.
See you.
All right. Thanks for
tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_and_fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_and_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in Northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. Shout out to Jig Masters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com